Hello, it's Anne here again. Welcome to another YouTube Messy Church. How are you doing? Are you back at school now? Seeing all your friends again? It's spring, isn't it? The days are getting longer. The flowers are opening. I've got some daffodils behind me. They're my favourites. There are primroses in the woods. There are catkins about. I've seen pussy willow near the river, and there are lambs in the field. All signs of new life. It's also nearly Easter. What does Easter make you think about? Easter chicks, maybe? Perhaps you're hoping for a visit from the Easter bunny. Perhaps you enjoy eating chocolate eggs. I do. I think Easter egg chocolate is the very best chocolate. But Easter starts with a very sad story. Here's a pebble I painted last year when we all had to stay at home. Can you see it? There's a hill and there are 3 crosses. 2 are for 2 thieves, but the middle one is for Jesus. Easter starts with Jesus dying on the cross. He died so that he could put to death all the very hard and very bad things that get us all tangled up and stuck sometimes. He died so that we would know that however hard things seem to be, however stuck and tangled up we might get, however bad we think we may have been, there isn't anything that Jesus can't put right. Underneath the hill, I've painted the grave where they put Jesus' body after he died, and that's supposed to be the great big heavy stone that they rolled in front of it to keep out the wild animals. Think how sad Jesus' friends must have been when they saw the stone being rolled over the entrance to the grave. But look again. I painted a spoiler on my pebble. It says, "He is risen." Because although Easter starts with a very sad story, with Jesus dying on the cross, it finishes with an amazing celebration. Because Jesus rose again from the dead and he's alive forever and ever. He's untangled everything that gets us stuck. Kate is here with our first Easter craft. She's got a craft that reminds us how Jesus died, but also reminds us that he rose again and he's alive forever and ever.
Hi everybody, hope you're doing okay and you're all ready for another Messy Church craft. So today I'm going to be making decorated crosses. So what you're going to need for this is some plain paper or card. It's entirely up to you. You could use white paper or you could use coloured paper, and depending on what colour you want your cross to be. I've got some white paper. It'd be useful to have a pencil. If you want to make your cross nice and straight, you could use a ruler, or you could just draw it freehand if you want to, or if you've got a grown-up who can draw nice straight lines for you. Going to need a pair of scissors, and you're going to need some colouring pens or colouring pencils or wax crayons to decorate your cross. If you've got stickers or pretty tape, you could use that as well. It's entirely up to you, just something that you can decorate your cross with. So I have already drawn a cross here. I've only drawn it in black pen so that you can see it on the video. You can just draw it in pencil if you like. We need a cross shape that looks something like that. It's entirely up to you how big the cross is or how small it is, how fat it is. You just need a cross shape. And if we were in church, we'd have a look around and we'd have a look at all the different crosses that we can see in church. So have a think about different crosses that you've seen. Cross is quite a common symbol that we see in churches. It's quite something that we see quite a lot in church. You might also see crosses on people's jewellery. Sometimes people wear a necklace with a cross on it. You might see them in stained glass windows. You might see them in churchyards or graveyards, so that you see crosses around a lot. And that's because the story of Easter, Jesus dying on the cross, is so important. It's such an important part of the church's story that that symbol of the cross is you see it a lot in churches. And what you'll see are, in different churches, you'll see different types of crosses. So in some churches, you'll see a cross with the figure of Jesus on the cross, and that reminds us of Jesus dying on the cross for us. But in other places and in other types of churches, you'll see an empty cross. So you'll just see the cross shape and the cross is empty. And this reminds us that Jesus died for us, but his death wasn't the end. On Easter Day, he rose again, and it's his coming back to life, his what we call his resurrection, that's important. So both types of crosses remind us of really important parts of the Easter story. Jesus' death on what we call Good Friday, and him coming back to life, his resurrection on Easter Sunday. So when we can go back to churches again, have a look at the crosses and see which ones you see in which places. If we were in St Paul's, we would see empty crosses, and most of the crosses in St Paul's are empty crosses. They don't have the image of Jesus on them. And what we're going to do with our crosses is that we're going to take our empty cross and we're going to decorate it with things to do with Easter, so signs of Easter. And we're going to take this cross, which is quite a sad picture, it's quite a sad thing to think about Jesus dying on the cross, and we're going to fill it with lots of pictures and symbols to remind us of that, the joy that we feel when we know about Jesus coming back to life again, and the joy that his friends would have felt as well, because they would have felt really sad that Jesus had died. But we're going to fill this cross with the joy that we feel and his friends felt when they saw that he'd come back to be with them. So draw my cross on a piece of paper, and it's up to you really what you feel best suits your colouring in. You could either colour it in and then cut it out, or you could cut it out and so you could either cut it out and then colour it in, or you can colour it in and then cut it out. Entirely up to you, it doesn't make any difference. I think I'm going to cut mine out now, just because I quite like cutting out, to be honest. So I'm going to cut my cross out. So here we go. We have one cross that I've cut out. Don't worry about the black lines, I just did those so that you could see them on the video, but I'm going to turn it over so that we've got a nice lots of white paper. So there we go, there's our cross, and what we're going to do is we're going to decorate it with all sorts of things that remind us of new life, so the idea of new life, that Jesus came back to life, things that make us think of the joy of that happening, and also if we think about some of the pictures that we might draw on them, they help us think about spring as well. Easter, often we think it's in the spring, we think about new life, so we might think about things like flowers. Often at Easter we think about flowers are a symbol of new life, growing from the ground. This beautiful thing comes from a ground that's been really bare over the winter. We might think about putting eggs on there, because we think about chicks coming out of eggs, so new life coming out of the egg. We might want to put some rabbits on there, because we often see pictures of rabbits at Easter. Again, that idea of new life. We could put other pictures on them as well, so we could put some symbols that we often think about in church as well. So we could maybe draw some doves. Often we think of doves as being a sign of peace, and also there are stories in the Bible about God coming to earth in the shape of a dove, so we think about doves. The fish symbol is often used by people in the church as a sign that they're a member of the church, a little fish symbol. You might want to put hearts on to remind you of God's love, Or you might want to put rainbows on to remind you of the hope that things will get better, the idea of God's love in the story of Noah. We see God putting that rainbow in the sky to remind everybody of his love and his care for them. So all sorts of things that you can put on your cross to symbolise new life, to symbolise the joy and happiness that Jesus' friends would have felt when they saw him on Easter Day. So I'm going to put some things on and I'll show you what I've got on my cross when I've put some pictures on. So here's my cross that I've started decorating. You can see I've got some hearts on it to remind me of God's love. I've got some flowers on it to remind me of spring, of new life, of things growing. I've got some tulips here because I really like tulips. So I've put all sorts of things on there, and you can put as much or as little as you like on your cross. You might want to colour it in different colours, or you might want to put a message on. You could use this when you finished it. You could use it as a bookmark if you wanted to, or you could send it to someone. So you could put a message on it to send to someone as an Easter present to remind them just how much you love them and also how much God loves them. So those are our decorated crosses with lots of signs of joy, lots of signs of hope, and lots of signs of spring on them. And I hope you have a good time making yours.
Have you heard the story of the very first Easter? It starts with something sad, as you know. Jesus died on the cross. When he died, they had to bury him. But they didn't bury people in graves like we see in churchyards today. Jesus was buried in a sort of cave, really. They put his body inside and then they rolled a great big stone in front of the entrance to keep the wild animals out. When Jesus died, it was a Friday. The Jewish Sabbath starts as soon as the sun sets on Friday evening, and it goes on until the sun sets again on the Saturday evening. And Jesus needed to be buried before the Sabbath started because they didn't do things like that on the Sabbath. But that meant that there wasn't enough time for his friends to look after his body with lovely herbs and spices the way they would want to. I think that must have made them even more upset, just like people in the pandemic are upset if someone has died and they can't have the funeral they want to have for them. So Jesus' body was put inside the tomb and the stone was rolled over the entrance. The women who were Jesus' friends decided that they would come back later once the Sabbath was over, and then they would look after his body the way they wanted to. Now the Sabbath didn't finish until the sun set on the Saturday, but by then of course it would be too dark for them to be able to do anything, so they wanted to get there as soon as it was light on the Sunday morning. It was still dark when they left home to walk to the tomb, and as they walked they were talking about what they needed to do to look after Jesus' body, and they realised they had a really big problem. There was a great big stone rolled over the entrance to the cave, and they had no idea at all how they were going to move it. It was far too heavy for them. They were hoping that maybe the gardener or somebody else might be there to help them with it, or maybe even the Roman soldiers who were guarding the grave might be kind enough to help. They knew they wouldn't be able to move it all by themselves. But when they got there, they had the most amazing surprise. Now, if you've heard this story before, you know what the surprise was. The stone had already been moved, and Jesus wasn't in the grave anymore. 2 angels were waiting for them, and they said, well, of course he's not here. Graves are for dead people. Jesus isn't dead. He was dead, but now he's risen. Jesus is alive. And so then the women went to tell all of Jesus' other friends the really good news. Jesus' tomb was in a lovely garden, Dion is going to show us how we can make our very own Easter gardens.
Hello, as you know, today we're talking about Easter, and on the Sunday after Jesus had died, some women went to the tomb to prepare Jesus' body as was traditional. But when they got to the tomb, the stone had been rolled away. The tomb was empty. And Mary, as John's Gospel tells us, turned to whom she thought was the gardener and asked where Jesus was. It was only when Jesus spoke that she realised he wasn't the gardener, but it was Jesus himself. So today, what I thought I'd do was share with you how you can create your own little Easter garden. So we're going to need a few things to do this. So first off, I've got a tub. Now this is just a takeaway tub, but you might have a slightly bigger box or a silver foil tub, any sort of tub. And in it, I've put some soil. But if you haven't got any soil, maybe you can put some sand in there or something like that. I've got an egg box, and I've got some bits of wood that I've managed to find in my garden. I've got some little stones, and I've got a bigger stone. I've got a piece of silver foil. I've got a piece of tissue paper, and I've got some little cuttings of trees and plants that I found in my garden. Take our pot of soil, and I've already cut the egg box so that we've got just one of the little things that holds the egg in. And I'm going to put that into the corner of my garden to create a kind of cave, okay? Because Jesus' tomb was a bit like a small cave. Now, what sort of things might we find in a garden? Well, you might have a little bit of a fence around the edge of your garden, and I thought some bits of wood might help to make the outside of it look a bit more garden-like. So we'll put some bits of wood around the edge of the garden. And sometimes in a garden you might have a well, or you might have a little pond, which is why we've got a little bit of silver foil. I'm going to sort of try and bury that in the soil a little bit so that it holds in place. And then we need to get our folded tissue paper, fold that up in there and put it inside our tomb. Now we're going to get our big stone and we're going to put that in front of the tomb for now. And then you might have a little path in your garden, which is what the little stones are for. So we create a little path down to the pond, and maybe another little path out to the corner of our garden. And then finally we need to put some plants in. So I've got a big hosta leaf there, which creates a big sort of tree-like thing, and I've got some ivy here and a little bit of box type hedging, and then another little flower type thing there, and there's a bit of silver birch which we'll put right in the middle. So there's our garden, and we can roll our stone away and find that the tomb is empty and just the folded grave clothes left. So have a go at creating your own little garden.
So when the women found that Jesus' grave was empty, they went back to tell the other disciples what the angels had told them: Jesus was alive. And you know what? They didn't really believe them. They said everybody knew that Jesus had died. Lots of people were there and they all saw it. Peter ran to the grave to see for himself, and the women were right. The grave was empty. Jesus was alive. Later on, Jesus went to see the disciples. They were hiding with the doors locked because they were frightened. People knew they were Jesus' friends and they thought they might be arrested. But then Jesus just walked in, even though the doors were locked, and he told them not to be frightened. He showed them the marks in his hands where the nails had gone in. It really was him, and he really was alive. He wasn't a ghost. They knew he wasn't a ghost because they could touch him, and he ate some fish. Ghosts don't do that. Jesus really was alive again, and he's still alive today. Easter starts with a very sad story, but it finishes with the very best news there has ever been. Jesus is alive and he is still with us today, and he can help us with all the things that make us feel tangled and stuck, and we don't need to feel scared because Jesus is with us today. And so we need to celebrate, and we're going to celebrate now with Matt. Come on and celebrate.
Come on and celebrate this gift of love. We will celebrate the Son of God who loved us and gave us life. We'll shout your praise, O King. You gave us joy nothing else can bring. We'll give to you our offering in celebration praise. Come on and celebrate, celebrate, celebrate and sing. Celebrate and sing to the King. Come on and celebrate, celebrate, celebrate and sing. Celebrate and sing to the King. Come on and celebrate this gift of love. We will celebrate the Son of God who loved us and gave us life. We'll shout your praise, O King. You gave us joy nothing else can bring. We'll give to you our offering in celebration praise. Come on and celebrate, celebrate, celebrate and sing. Celebrate and sing to the King. Come on and celebrate, celebrate, celebrate and sing. Celebrate and sing to the King.
How are you going to celebrate? I've got a little chocolate egg here, but Hannah, Lydia and Arthur have been celebrating by doing some special Easter cookery, and we're going to see now how they made their Easter nests.
Hello everyone, I'm Hannah and this is Lydia and Arthur, and we're going to be making some chocolate nests for you today. Okay, so Lydia, Arthur, you know at Easter we think about Jesus dying on the cross and then coming back to life. We also think about new life. And we've got some of our little friends here. We've got a lamb, got a chick, and we've got a bird. What's the bird sitting in, Lydia?
A nest.
A nest. And what does it lay in its nest?
An egg.
Egg, yeah. So one of the ways we think about new life around Easter time is through nests and eggs. And we're going to make some chocolate nests. Sound good? Yeah, do you want to look? Okay, so should we get started? Okay, so here's a bowl for you, Lydia. And the first thing we're going to need...
Flour and sugar.
Oh, usually we put flour and sugar in the cake, but today we're going to put cornflakes in. So can you pour all of those into your bowl? That's it. Here we go. Now, this is where it might get a bit messy. This one. What's in this bowl?
What?
Chocolate.
When it takes it a little bit, it's for its own. Chocolate is okay to eat.
Okay. Right, can you get all of that into your cornflakes? Arthur, we've got some for you too. Here's some cornflakes.
Oh,
Is it a bit tricky? I'll do some too.
please do my chocolate too.
Okay. Right, so here's some more chocolate that we're going to pour in. Wow.
It's okay to eat.
Okay, you taste it. Is it okay to eat? Yeah. Good. Put your chocolate and cornflakes and mix it all up. Yummy, yummy. Okay, you ready to do the next bit, Lydia? So, we've got some little cupcake holders and we're just going to spoon it in. You don't have to cook it, but we're going to put them in the fridge to make them set. So shall I put them in the cupcake holders? There we go. Yeah. So really simple. You just put them in the cupcake holders, and then what do birds lay when they're in their nest?
Eggs.
Yeah, they lay their eggs. So we need some eggs in our nest. So you could use the little mini eggs or anything like that. But we're going to use marshmallows today because I know that Lydia likes marshmallows a lot. Okay, so can you put a few marshmallows in each of these? And Arthur, you've got some too. And that's it. So we hope you have lots of fun making your own chocolate eggs. And happy Easter to everyone. Bye.
Well, if you make your own Easter nests, I hope they turn out really well. Remember, if you try any of our crafts, if you make Easter nests, if you make an Easter garden, if you decorate a cross, we really love to see pictures of what you've been up to. You can send them to us on our Facebook page. Our Facebook page is called Messy Church at St Paul's, Aberystwyth. If you want to see some more Messy Church, we've got other Messy Church sessions on our YouTube channel, and that's called Ceredigion Circuit of the Methodist Church. And you're welcome to watch as many times as you like, as many things as you like. You can watch our Sunday services as well. We're going to close now, but Heather is going to say a prayer for us. Here's Heather.
At Easter time, Lord, we thank you and praise you for showing us your love. We thank you for Jesus, who was willing to die for us on the cross and enable us to have eternal life, and always know and be reminded of this love shown by Jesus and his ultimate sacrifice. We thank you for new life we can all celebrate at Easter time. Amen.
Thanks for being here and joining in today. I hope we can see you again really soon. Bye for now. Bye.
Come on and celebrate His gift of love. We will celebrate the Son of God who loved us and gave us life. We'll shout your praise, O King. You gave us joy nothing else can bring. We'll give to you our offering in celebration praise. Come on and celebrate, celebrate, celebrate and sing. Celebrate and sing to the King. Come on and celebrate, celebrate, celebrate and sing. Celebrate and sing to the King. Come on and celebrate His gift of love. We will celebrate the Son of God who loved us and gave us life. We'll shout your praise, O King. You gave us joy nothing else can bring. We'll give to you our offering in celebration praise. Come on and celebrate, celebrate, celebrate and sing. Celebrate and sing to the King. Come on and celebrate, celebrate, celebrate and sing. Celebrate and sing to the King.